Imagine working for, 45 years. You save diligently, you pay off your mortgage, and you finally retire with this really comfortable, respectable nest egg.
Right, the classic American dream scenario.
Exactly. But then you realize that within just 2 years of needing assisted living, you are going to be completely, irreversibly bankrupt.
Yeah, it is a staggering reality.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you, the listener, are joining us today because we are looking at this massive, unavoidable shift happening in the senior housing market right now.
It is basically a mathematical trap waiting for millions of middle-class seniors.
Yeah, and the whole industry is scrambling to completely reinvent how we house our aging population before the system just entirely collapses.
Because it is a foundational crisis, right? Most people don't even look at it until the exact moment they are forced to.
Right.
And by then, the financial shock is just overwhelming. The fundamental architecture of how we care for the aging is being dismantled and rebuilt in real time.
Which brings us to our mission today. We are basing our deep dive on a really fascinating industry breakdown titled The New Reality of Senior Housing, Matching Care Levels with Sustainable Resident Rates.
Oh, yeah, that report. It is incredibly detailed.
It is. And the author, Robert Flowers, is no joke. He's an award-winning real estate investor with over 15 years of experience.
Yeah, and he leads an A-plus Better Business Bureau accredited firm that has been featured in Who's Who, so he really knows the mechanics of this stuff.
Exactly. And this isn't just some abstract theory we're talking about. We're actually seeing this pivot happen on the ground right now. In fact, our sponsor for today's deep dive ties perfectly into this.
Right, they are actually doing the work.
Yes. Flowers and Associates Property Rentals, specializing in special needs housing. They are actively acquiring properties to build the exact types of specialized middle-market housing we are going to explore today.
Which is such a critical piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And if you are looking to explore this space yourself, Robert Flowers actually has a book out called The Joy of Helping Others, Creating Passive Income Streams Through Special Needs Housing.
That is a great resource for anyone wanting to really understand the market.
Yeah, it's available right now on passiveimpactbookstore.com or Amazon. And I'll just give you their contact info right up front, too. You can reach Flowers & Associates at 901-621-3544.
So, getting into the actual crisis here.
Yes, please set the stage for us. Because the core of this issue seems to be this brutal collision between the cost of care and fixed incomes.
Right. The operational reality of running a senior care facility today bears almost no resemblance to what it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago.
How so?
Well, on the expense side of the ledger, you are looking at severe systemic labor shortages, and that has just driven staffing costs entirely through the roof.
Because you literally just can't find the people to do the jobs.
Exactly. Plus, you have increasingly complex, incredibly dense healthcare regulations.
Which means more paperwork.
More paperwork, specialized compliance officers, a lot of administrative bloat. And then, insurance premiums for these facilities are just surging.
Wow, okay.
But honestly, the biggest factor is the acuity of the residents themselves.
Acuity, like how sick they are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are living much longer, which is wonderful, obviously.
Yep.
But they are living longer with highly complex, intensive daily medical regimens. We're talking diabetes management, severe mobility issues, advanced memory care needs.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it sounds like, well, it's like trying to buy a cutting-edge 2026 smartphone on a strict 1996 budget.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. The required care has evolved and gotten way more expensive, but the resident's wallet just hasn't grown to match it. We aren't just putting a roof over someone's head anymore.
No, not at all. You are managing highly bespoke, intensive medical regimens.
And every single individual need requires custom, expensive attention.
Precisely. And this financial reality completely breaks the traditional legacy pricing models of senior living communities.
Because they used to just charge a flat rate, right?
Exactly. For decades, the industry standard was this highly predictable, all-inclusive monthly rate. A family paid one flat fee, and the resident got their room, their meals, and whatever level of care they happened to need as they aged.
Just a buffet model.
Right, a buffet. But when the baseline cost of providing that custom medical attention surges way past what a fixed pension or a Social Security check can cover, that flat rate model becomes a mathematical impossibility.
So the operators are just bleeding money under that old system.
Oh, absolutely. It forces operators to abandon the old way of doing business just to survive.
Because the math of a one-size-fits-all monthly rate no longer works. So they are basically being forced to completely dismantle and, unbundle their services.
Yeah, the industry calls this the shift toward tiered service models.
Tiered service models, okay.
Right. Providers are completely abandoning the single monthly rate and breaking down their care into highly personalized, distinct levels.
So instead of one flat fee, a community separates everything into packages.
Exactly. You might have independent living services at the base tier.
And then maybe a step up to assisted living care packages.
Yes, or a completely different tier for memory care programs and a separate tier entirely for specialized medical support services.
Now, if you're listening to this and thinking about your own aging parents or yourself, you might be a little skeptical. Like, I have to ask, is this just a sneaky way for operators to nickel and dime residents for every little thing?
That is the natural fear.
Yeah, it feels like an airline charging for your carry-on bag and then your water and then priority boarding, but applied to your grandmother's health care.
Right. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the unbundling is actually the exact opposite of nickel and diming.
Really? How so?
It is fundamentally about transparency and basic economic fairness.
Okay, I'm listening.
Under the old flat-rate buffet-style system, think about a highly independent senior who only needed someone to occasionally help with housekeeping.
Right. Maybe they just need a little help with meals.
Exactly. That person was effectively subsidizing the massive round-the-clock medical costs of their neighbor down the hall who required intensive nursing.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, the healthy were essentially paying for the sick. So matching care levels to specific needs actually creates much-needed transparency.
It fixes the inequity. Families can actually know exactly what they're paying for.
Precisely. You pay for the specific package you need and nothing more. And it allows the facilities to control costs and keep rates somewhat sustainable.
Because they aren't guessing what the baseline cost of care for 100 different people might be.
Right, they can allocate their staff and resources efficiently based on actual documented tiers of care.
But even with unbundled transparent pricing, there is still a massive demographic falling right through the cracks of the system, right?
Unfortunately, yes. This brings us to the middle market affordability gap.
The middle market affordability gap. Explain that for us.
These are seniors who earn too much to qualify for government-supported housing programs or Medicaid.
Right. The government looks at their assets and says, you aren't low income, you don't need help.
Exactly. But at the same time, they simply do not have enough wealth to afford traditional private pay assisted living.
Which can easily be, what, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month?
Easily, sometimes more.
Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly terrifying. The sheer scale of this problem.
The numbers are staggering.
Right, because industry analysts project that millions of seniors will fall into this middle market category over the next decade.
Millions. It's an entire demographic tsunami as the baby boomer generation ages.
I mean, I want you, the listener, to just consider your own aging family members right now. Most people just assume there is some kind of safety net out there.
People assume Medicare will cover it or Medicaid.
Exactly. For the vast middle class, that net is just disappearing. You end up in what's called the Medicaid spend-down trap.
Oh, the spend down is brutal.
Yeah. Like, imagine a retired teacher with a nice suburban home and maybe $300,000 in savings. She needs memory care. The state won't help her because she has assets.
Right. So she has to go private.
And within 3 or 4 years, she has completely drained her life savings, sold the family home just to pay the facility bills.
And only then, when she is entirely destitute, does the government step in.
It effectively punishes the middle class for saving just enough to disqualify themselves from aid. It's wild.
It is a broken system, and the traditional big-box institutional facility just doesn't work for this growing middle market.
You mean those massive buildings with the marble lobbies and commercial kitchens?
Exactly. The overhead required to run those places is permanently too high to ever price it affordably for that retired teacher.
So the physical spaces and the business models themselves have to be completely reimagined.
Completely from the ground up.
So what are the solutions? How are innovative new housing models racing to fix this?
Well, one of the most effective solutions we are seeing is shared independent living.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Instead of a huge facility, it's multiple residents in a home-style environment. They share the kitchen, the living spaces.
Sort of like a professionally managed Golden Girls arrangement?
Exactly like that. And crucially, they share the care staff and resources to slash operating costs.
So the cost of a 24/7 caregiver is split maybe 5 ways instead of falling on one person.
Exactly. It alters the economic math entirely. And alongside that, investors are moving towards smaller residential communities.
Meaning they are moving away from the large facilities entirely.
Right. They are building smaller, efficient care homes that offer a personalized environment at a lower cost, blending right into standard subdivisions.
But there's another really clever solution highlighted in the source material, isn't there? Something about nonprofits.
Yes. The rise of collaborations between private investors and nonprofits.
How does it actually work? Who does what?
Well, the private property owners supply the housing, they acquire the real estate, maintain the buildings, and bring the capital.
But they don't run the actual healthcare side.
Right. What's fascinating here is how this partnership splits the burden. The nonprofits handle the case management and the supportive services.
They handle the actual day-to-day care delivery.
Exactly. They share the load, solving the affordability issue by letting each side do what they do best without overextending themselves.
The private sector brings the housing, the nonprofit brings the mission-driven care, the overhead drops, making the math finally work for the middle market.
It creates a sustainable ecosystem. But, shrinking the physical footprint and sharing houses only solves half the problem.
Right, because if you have 50 small houses spread out across a suburb instead of one giant building, managing the care across those dispersed locations is a logistical nightmare.
It requires a completely new approach to staffing. You can't just have a nurse walking the halls anymore.
So how do they do it?
Technology. It is becoming the essential, quote-unquote, invisible staff member.
The invisible staff member. Okay, like what kind of tech are we talking about?
Providers are relying heavily on remote monitoring systems, digital health records, and AI-assisted care management tools to track resident needs.
So we were talking about sensors under mattresses or ambient motion detectors.
Exactly. The AI tracks vital signs, sleep patterns, even changes in someone's gait to predict a fall.
Now, I have to stop you there, because when we talk about senior care, we instantly think of human empathy, right? The warmth of a caregiver.
Of course.
Doesn't bringing in AI, algorithms, and remote monitoring feel a bit cold? Or risk entirely replacing the human element with some dystopian digital surveillance?
That is a very common concern. But the reality is actually the opposite. The technology isn't replacing the human touch, it's reducing staffing burdens.
How so?
Think about a traditional caregiver's shift. A huge portion of their time is spent filling out manual charts, doing paperwork, or just walking down long hallways to visually check on people who are perfectly fine.
Just logistical friction.
Exactly. By handling the tracking and data, AI absorbs that administrative burden. It improves response times because the system flags an issue immediately.
Oh, I see. So it frees up the human staff to actually focus on the residents.
Right. By removing the clipboard work, caregivers have the time and energy to actually sit down and have a meaningful conversation.
The tech handles the cold logistics, so the humans can provide the warmth and empathy.
Exactly. It elevates the quality of care.
So what does this all mean? We've unpacked the crushing math of rising costs versus fixed incomes. We've seen why care had to be unbundled into transparent tiers.
Right, and the reality of that middle market affordability gap.
And we've explored the new models, the shared independent living, the nonprofit partnerships, and the AI invisible staff.
If I can synthesize all of this, the future of senior living requires care delivery, affordability, and housing models to work in perfect harmony.
A three-legged stool.
Exactly. Those who can create affordable, scalable solutions will play a critical role in the future as the baby boomer generation continues to age.
It is an incredible shift, and it presents both massive challenges, but also massive opportunities for investors and housing providers.
Absolutely.
Which is a perfect time to reiterate our sponsor today, Flowers & Associates Property Rentals, specializing in special needs housing. They are right at the forefront of this.
They are actively building the physical spaces required to make these shared living models a reality.
Yeah, and to learn more about creating financial freedom while making a real community impact, remember you can read Robert Flower's book.
The Joy of Helping Others, Creating Passive Income Streams Through Special Needs Housing.
Yes, available now at passiveimpactbookstore.com or on Amazon. And for direct inquiries, you can reach out to Flowers & Associates at 901-621-3544.
It's just such important work. But, beyond the economics of all this, I want to leave everyone with a final thought to chew on.
Well, please do.
If the future of aging involves moving away from massive, isolated institutions...
Right, those big boxes on the edge of town.
Right. If we move away from those and towards smaller, shared, tech-enabled neighborhood homes, How might this permanently change the architecture and the community feel of our standard suburban neighborhoods over the next 20 years?
Wow. Because we're essentially reintegrating the aging population right back into the regular neighborhood block.
Exactly. We zoned them out for decades, and now the economics of healthcare might accidentally cure that social isolation.
The math forcing us back into genuine, localized community living. What a profound paradox to end on. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
It was a pleasure.
And as always, to you listening, keep questioning the world around you.